to that tweet if you want.
Yeah.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. Be there.
What's up, everybody? Da 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 da. Round of applause for Gavin. This is his victory lap live. Man died on this hill over and over again. I lampooned him over and over again. I called him a hopium addict. I called him delusional. I said that he was coconut pilled like the internet, but I was wrong, everybody. I have to retire my cap as the oracle after Gavin's disastrous electoral college forecasting and return the belt back to my man over here. We have a new oracle of politics. But as I'd like to remind everybody, I'm happy to ride Gavin's coattails. I have equal stake in the podcast, and Scottie Pippen got 6 rings too, so it doesn't really matter if you're in the backseat or the front. This train is a moving.
Yep, I was I think the only one in all of independent left-wing media to say it. So, subscribe to this channel, guys, if you want the hot takes and solid predictions. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, a lot of people were predicting this. We had our debates about whether or not it would actually happen, but it has happened. It's Jover, guys.
Jover.
It's actually Jover. It's not just kind of Jover. It's actually Jover, guys. Joe Biden will not be the nominee. He will not be the Democratic nominee. The Democrats are back in this race. Trump's actually going to have to campaign now. The Republicans are actually going to have to fight for their lives. They thought they had a cakewalk. Not so fast. I totally think this race is about to change, honestly, in a way that no one truly could have predicted. I think a lot of people out there, they've just had this idea baked in of how it's going to go. Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, a rematch. Biden's probably going to lose this time. Oh, no. This race is just now getting started. We're back to square one, literally. Holy shit, guys. Politics is back.
Yeah, as the skeptic, as the guy who, I would get excited for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, an hour at most. I'd be like, you're right, Gavin. I would listen to you get all up in your fervor about how there's no way they can let fascism take over this country just without any opposition. This old feeble man. I knew he couldn't win. I didn't know if the Democrats would get rid of him. Fortunately, they've decided to. Let's hear from the horse's mouth really quickly exactly what he said. This is a statement I did not expect to get. I thought it would be a little bit different if he did decide to drop out. I thought there would be a little more fanfare. I thought he would really draw the attention to himself, make it feel like it was a tremendous sacrifice for the country, but that, he was willing to be the unifier once again and all that stuff, and, make it about how he'd been discriminated against because of his age in the mind of the electorate. But, he knew he'd left the country in good hands, yada, yada, yada. That's not really what we've got. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Sorry, this is really small, crappy font for people who want to read along, but I'll try my best to narrate for you. Joseph R. Biden Jr., July 21st, 2024.
A day that will live in glory. Honestly, this is a day to remember, guys.
Honestly, this might be the day that goes down in your history book that most people know about Joe Biden. If you think it will be his disastrous foreign policy, unfortunately, I don't think so. It should be, though. Anyway, this is what he says. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans.
LOL.
Yeah, right. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances. Yeah, after Jon Stewart, the comedian, begged you to and shamed you to in front of a national audience on the front lawn of Congress. But that's neither here nor there. Passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. He didn't even let it interrupt his offshore drilling agenda, Gavin. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Way to walk and chew bubblegum. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. Unless you ask China or Russia or basically any other fucking country that competes with us. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Okay, more people are poor than ever, and we lost like 1 million people in the pandemic. So I don't know if you want to put that in your victory lap speech. That's more of a footnote in history kind of a problem if I'm writing a Joe Biden memoir. You know what I mean? Anyway, we've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world.
What?
He did not get back in the Iran nuclear deal, which would have been a fucking cakewalk in the first 6 months of
How's
his
the Middle
presidency.
East doing, Joe?
Yeah, it literally. What's going on over there? Actually, Gavin, I've heard it's all, sunshine and apple bottom jeans over there. Anyway, it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I imagine him writing this like a punished schoolboy with Barack Obama holding like a meter stick behind him, like the school principal. And he's like, now, if you write this on your own, you're not going to get any more lickings. Okay, Joe? All right. But otherwise, if you write any funny business in there, we're going to have to take you out and I'll make you pick your own switch this time. Okay? Just like when you were a boy, Joe, you know the deal.
Yep.
He says he will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for their faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Boom. What was your reaction to that letter, Gavin?
I mean, I'm still kind of processing all of this. I literally found this news out the same time all you guys did, which was like 30 minutes ago. Zach called me up. I literally screamed and then immediately got in my car and drove down here with the windows down and the crab rave playing at full volume for the entire 10-minute ride. It was actually glorious. Hopefully some people were like, what the hell is that guy doing as I drove by them? But yeah, what a great day. What a great day, guys. Obviously, we kind of knew this was coming, but I also want to impress upon everyone the fact that I genuinely don't think this would have happened if it weren't for that disastrous debate night. The Democrats truly are that incompetent, and I really do think they would have run this absolute corpse of a human being in the general election if they could have. However, that debate night really did make it untenable for Joe, and everything we've seen since then was just an avalanche that was really going to make it impossible for him to survive, even if he dug his heels in more and more. I want to throw this up on screen real quick. This is a tweet I made the night of the debate. Pretty funny in retrospect. I said, my only hope for this debate is that Joe Biden performs so disastrously that the Democrats have no choice but to swap him out for someone else as their nominee. And he really did. That is what happened, guys.
Gavin was on this beat like flies on shit, everybody. Like flies in a box of fruit, okay? Like, this shit was crazy. This man and I had constant on-air and off-airs locking horns about this. And I'm not too petty to admit it. I never thought the Democrats were going to actually sack up and do this. I thought that they were so feckless. We were talking about this the other night. We were trying to think of another 4-year span in our lifetime where the domestic policy has been so stagnant, where there has been almost no discussion, where there has been no progress, and the regression has just been due to atrophy for the most part. Like, they didn't renew the child tax credit when they should have. Like, they didn't do a significant infrastructure bill when they had the opportunity to. They didn't codify Roe v. Wade when they had the opportunity to. They didn't raise the minimum wage when they had the opportunity to. They did not cancel student debt in a way that would have been successful when they had the opportunity to. Should I go on? Do you know what I'm saying? That it's been absolutely a vacuum. There's just been nothing going on, right? So I thought that's what they would continue to do. I thought they would just continue to do nothing. Gavin was the true believer. Gavin was raising hell the whole time. I mean, we couldn't have done it without you, bro. Really appreciate the the beating of the drum. I want to go ahead and add this other significant fact, because I think you and I both always kind of fell on this side of the coin. There was a lot of fervor, a lot of misleading information coming out of even progressives like Bernie Sanders and AOC. Could we just say, go back and watch our clip from fucking yesterday and then go watch the clip from today? Okay, we knew exactly what was going to happen if Biden decided to drop out. Our only disagreement on air was whether or not the Democrats were going to have the balls to do it. We literally told you there's only one option for the Democrats to go with it, whether you like it or not. I don't like Kamala. Gavin and I are Kamala's biggest haters. We hate the way that she walks. We hate the way that she talks. We hate the way that she sneak disses, right? We are not fans of Kamala. All my homies hate Kamala. What we are worse fans of, what we hate even more than Kamala, if you can believe it, is Donald Trump, right? And we needed somebody that could both realistically get the nomination away from Joe Biden and somebody that could beat Donald Trump. The only person that was going to meet in those crosshairs was Kamala Harris. And really quickly, I just want to read this from Joe Biden today. Some people, even as recently as the time that he released the statement, was like, oh my God, this proves AOC right. Like they're going to do a renegade primary. No, sir. No, sir. We all knew this was coming. There was no way to step past Kamala Harris. Yes, she's the top cop of California. Yes, she's pretty uninspirational, but she's a far cry from Joe Biden, and that's about all we could hope for given the circumstances. So let's read this. Joe Biden says, my fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement of Kamala for the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. Okay, now, Gavin, it's time for our collective victory lap.
Yep. So it does look like Joe Biden's going to be endorsing Kamala Harris. That's obviously huge. It's also obviously expected. I mean, she's the vice president. That would be pretty crazy for him to be like, even though I picked this person 3.5 years ago to, be the person who takes over if I can't continue to lead, now I think I want to choose someone else. That wouldn't really work out, right? What I am interested in, though, Zach, is what exactly the convention is going to look like, because we have seen a lot of speculation about the different ways it could go down. I kind of jokingly tweeted last night based on some intel that leaked, about this crazy idea of doing a convention with a bunch of celebrity guest speakers where they kind of select the next nominee, vice president, whatever. So I kind of joked here. I said, what Trump and the Republicans fear most is Mr. Beast and Taylor Swift crowning the next Democratic nominee on live primetime television in an epic convention bonanza that would put the goofy ass RNC to shame. And obviously, I'm joking, like I said, but there is this memo going around Washington, apparently, that suggests different ways to create an exciting, interesting televised convention. And they do float names like Oprah, Mr. Beast, people like that, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Tim McGraw, even people that I definitely find cringe, but that I certainly think
don't take the girls. That's the only thing I really know about that guy.
But I mean, as cringy as I find these people, I mean, it's no cringier than Kid Rock, Hulk Hogan, and fucking Dana White. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do think this has a more normie appeal if they got together just, people like this from pop culture.
And they couldn't decide if they wanted a woman beater or a woman beater, so they just had a woman beater. Yeah. What a hell of a lineup for the RNC. They were like, we need somebody that'll smack the shit out of his wife. Well, fortunately, that was all three of the guys that we had lined up anyway, right?
Yeah. So do you think there's any chance, Zach, that something crazy like this actually happens? Because a lot of people were making fun of this. But I mean, unironically, I do think there is some truth to the fact that the Republicans and Trump would shit their pants. I mean, Trump clearly is just in full entertainment mode, right? All he cares about is ratings. I mean, really, can you think of a better way to kind of show it to the Republicans than to outdo their stupid convention, actually create a massive media spectacle where various candidates are able to make their pitch to American voters, or at least Democratic voters? You know, you could have Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Andy Beshear, JB Pritzker do a little blitz primary. It would be really fun to watch. I think your average American would be like, hell yeah, I'll tune into that. You know, even if they're not like a diehard Democrat, they're going to be like, this is interesting. You know, we've only had the same options on the table for seemingly the last decade now, as far as like the Bidens, the Clintons, and the Trumps. You know, it's just like these, you know, same options, right? I think people would get into the idea of like, who's on the table? Like, you know, what do we have to pick from? I think people would kind of like that. I'm not sure. You know, I definitely worry that it would come off as too elitist, but what do you think?
I think there's a sophisticated way to do it, right? I think there's a way that makes it fun for everybody and that it doesn't seem like pandering, right? I think that there's a way of unifying it and saying, guys, look, this is a pretty obvious choice right now. We have a new face of America, which is neoliberal corporatism, and we have the old face of America, which is racism, fascism, and old money. These are your two options, right? And now let's ask every celebrity that we know who hates Trump. There are so many celebrities that publicly, they just love to talk shit on Donald Trump. So you don't, I mean, I'm just saying, you match the cringe, but with millennials. You know, you just give the millennials what they want. Have Eminem come out and freestyle with Machine Gun Kelly about how they both hate Donald Trump, right? Have Rage Against the Machine come back together with Public Enemy, you know, and get Chuck D and Zach De La Rocha. Zach De La Rocha would never do it. But you'd have to get like Chuck D and somebody that was like less serious about their politics than Rage Against the Machine. But you could get Tom Morello and Chuck D to do it 100%. You could. And then you get another superstar like Beyonce and Jay-Z to come out, right? And everybody in our chat is like, these people aren't progressives. And we're like, of course they're not progressives. These are the billionaire class we're talking about, but they hold sway in the entertainment industry, right? And it makes people have attention. And then you follow suit with exactly what Gavin talked about, right? Which is, again, a lot of horse shit, because we're talking about the two-party system right now. But it's horse shit that's better than, it's a half a bowl of shit or a full bowl of shit. That's basically what we always boil down to. Shout out to Nina Turner for keeping it real. But what it comes down to is, if you have Gretchen Whitmer, like Gavin said, who already, by the way, has said that she wouldn't seek a challenge to Kamala Harris for the presidential nomination, that would be a horrible look. I'm going to try and stand in the way of the vice president, who is a black woman in America, who's very qualified for the job. If you want to use like textbook American qualifications, right? She was the top cop of California. She was a senator. She was vice president. That's about as qualified as you could get for the job of presidency in the eyes of like ABC News viewers. Right? If you watch MSNBC and CNN, it's hard to argue with the resume of somebody like Kamala Harris, right? So I don't think anybody like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, or people who obviously have ambitions for the presidency in the Democratic Party, without a doubt, they're going to sit it out until 2028. One thing that I do have to circle back and ask you, Gavin, because we, you know, at the Vanguard, we never let an opportunity go by to remind people that we were right and that we forecast this correctly. At least one of the two of us usually hit the nail on the head. It's very rare that we both get something wrong. I want to talk about something we both got right, that two of our progressive icons, you know, or former progressive icons.
What the fuck, AOC?
Got totally wrong. Not just AOC, but Bernard Sanders. Bernie Sanders could have been out here on the front line with us, trying to get concessions with Kamala Harris, saying, Kamala, talk to me. I have a movement. I can make those people fucking get Joe Biden out. Then you have real standing. Then you can play ball. What the fuck is going on? Why do these people refuse to play hardball?
It's ridiculous. And as I said yesterday, it's like not only stupid. It wasn't only stupid from a moral or a leftist perspective. Obviously, Joe Biden's not progressive. He's currently sponsoring a genocide. But also, it was deeply misguided from a strategic perspective. On the part of AOC and Bernie Sanders, like they were seemingly so desperate to curry favor with Joe Biden. He's not going to be the president. He's not going to be the nominee. Yeah. So I'm like, where does that leave you now? I'm sure Biden's happy that AOC and Bernie defended him. But again, that's irrelevant. Biden's going to be out of power in a matter of months. So now what?
It's already a lame duck presidency, which, in case anybody had any doubts about, no piece of legislation is going to be passed that is meaningful from now until January, when a new president is sworn in. Whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't fucking matter. Joe Biden is now written off as a lame duck president from here until January.
Yep. And potentially now the progressives, AOC, Bernie, they've potentially now squandered their ability to curry favor with Kamala Harris, who's going to be the new leader of the Democratic Party. I'm not sure how she'll view their defenses of Biden, but I don't know. If I were her, I'd be kind of like, what the hell? Why were you protecting this guy who clearly wasn't up for the job when I was next in line and clearly was up for the job? I don't know. We'll find out how that all goes down. I also wanted to play this. People were circulating this ad a lot because, you know, it's kind of look towards what the future of this general election could, shake out to kind of look like, right? Here's an ad from Kamala Harris's 2020 campaign that's mostly about Donald Trump. And I think that, you know, we're going to see a lot of this playbook now that Kamala will be the Democratic nominee, most likely. So I'm interested in your opinion, Zach, on the effectiveness of a message like this, and if you think it'll resonate with Americans when they get a chance to kind of see the contrast.
Sick of this? Well, think about this. He's a world leader.
Here, do you want me to send this to you? Actually, Zach, I think it's kind of lagging.
Yeah, sorry everybody. Yeah, that was playing like shit. So just put it in the private chat, Gavin, and I'll open it really quick.
Yeah. Sorry, my laptop is
it's on the fritz. Gosh, this is a DIY news network. Okay, everybody. You guys are like, hey, we don't want to watch anybody that takes paid ad reads, right? And that's totally fair. We don't want to watch anybody that takes paid ad reads either. But that means we don't have a sound guy. We just have people like us to do this job. Anyway, let's take a look here. We've got an ad from Kamala Harris back in 2020. Let's see what kind of tone they strike with this.
Sick of this? Well, think about this. He's a world leader in temper tantrums. She never loses her cool. She prosecuted sex predators. He is one.
Grab him by the...
She shut down for-profit colleges that swindled Americans. He was a for-profit college.
At Trump University, we teach success.
Literally. He's owned by the big banks. She's the attorney general who beat the biggest banks in America and forced them to pay homeowners $18 billion. He's tearing us apart. She'll bring us together. This is Trump. And in every possible way, this is the anti-Trump. So if that's what you're looking for in your next president, there's really only one. Kamala. Sick of this.
Boom. Look, I don't think that there's any arguing that she's going to be a far more effective communicator, a far more effective foil than Joe Biden was.
Yeah.
But what I do want to go ahead and say is that she's not obviously going to be a champion of the working people. She is not going to govern materially that much differently than Joe Biden. I think that there's a few things that you will see more. She's going to have way more ambition. So what she does decide to do, she will be more motivated to accomplish. I think that's for sure. And I think that she will do less horridly bad things than Donald Trump would do, right? So for example, she is not going to allow a national abortion ban to take place. She is not going to refuse to leave the White House if she loses re-election, if she wins in 2024. She is not going to pursue a massive tax cut for the rich. She's not going to pursue massive deregulation. She's not going to pretend that climate change isn't real. She's just going to do nothing really materially to solve it, right? What we should probably focus on pushing her to the left on before I pass it to you, Gavin, is making sure that she doesn't regress the Democratic Party's progress on unions. It's been this much, but we're facing a real battleground with that. We saw Sean O'Brien cozying up with the Republican Party, who defanged union, who led every crusade against union, whose voters consistently showed up and voted for right to work in states that it devastated union density, right? And I'm not saying the Democratic Party has been a friend to unions, but we've seen them do slightly more than Republicans, and we can't lose the NLRB back to what a Donald Trump NLRB would be. We can't lose the important court rulings that are coming down as a result of that NLRB.
Right.
But outside of that, I do think it's going to be pretty similar to a Joe Biden presidency. The other big elephant in the room, we don't know for sure how she'll govern as a commander-in-chief, but I think it would be hard for her because of her own self-interest, because of her career interest, because of I was speaking too much truth about Joe Biden, and the deep state got to us. Sorry, guys. More leftist programming hiccups, but I'm going to be back in 1, 2, 3. Anyway,
We're back.
we're back.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I 100% think you're right about the fact that the best things about Joe Biden's administration and his policy in general was the union stuff and the antitrust stuff. So I really hope that Biden makes it clear on his way out that these are aspects of his legacy he really wants preserved, right? That it would be a huge disservice to his legacy and to what he accomplished if his successor chips away at those accomplishments. Again, in the antitrust regard and in the union regard, specifically with the NLRB. So I'm really hoping that, like I said, Joe Biden impresses the importance of those issues to him and to his administration as far as his accomplishments went. Because, yeah, that's the number one thing I'd like to see carried through into the next Democratic ticket or administration, assuming that Kamala wins. Now, obviously, I agree, that's not much of a legacy, but those are the only two things, in my opinion, two of the only things. I mean, the Afghanistan withdrawal was good as well, but two of the only things that really did separate him from the more neoliberal kind of order of Democratic presidents before him, like Bill Clinton and Obama. And yeah, I definitely view I definitely view Kamala as more in the mold of one of those kind of elitist coastal Democrats, someone like a Clinton or an Obama. And I don't think she would have those instincts to be as solid on unions and antitrust, which is why I do hope that Biden, like I said, impresses that that's something that should continue and that should be maintained.
And that the left can, organize around, and that Bernie Sanders, instead of being a fucking doormat, can actually show some spine and potentially wield the movement that he still has the power to wield. And in response to Alan Hill, do you guys really think Biden was driving the ship on those things? I actually think this is one of the few things Biden was driving the ship on. I mean, you guys have to understand, this was the first American president to stand on a picket line. This is a guy who really deeply believed himself to be Scranton Joe. Yes, he was the senator from MBNA, or whatever the name of that credit card company was that they used to call him back in the day, right? Yes, he was known for being quick and easy on banks and loan companies and all of that shit. 100%. But deep down in his brain, what he remembered himself as, what he internalized himself as, was Scranton Joe, right? Working class, product of like steel mill and hard times. And I think to himself, he was that, right? Obviously, he didn't govern that way, but the few instances that you would see that, if you're just being honest in evaluating the guy, was that as all of his mind started to deteriorate away, one thing that stood out to him was that he knew in his heart, unions built this fucking country, man. And he wanted to be remembered as a guy who supported the unions, and in this in juxtaposition to the fact that he will be remembered chiefly as a supporter of genocide, as a supporter of ethnic cleansing. In my book, I think in history books, they try and write the guy off as a guy who really tried to re-kickstart the labor movement, a guy that did stand on the picket line. Oh, that'll be a trivia fact. He was the first U.S. president to stand on a picket line. And then I think the other big foreign policy thing that'll stick around is Afghanistan.
It's very reminiscent of like an LBJ, who's remembered fondly for his domestic achievements, but obviously the Vietnam War is always a huge stain when you're talking about the history and the legacy of
Biden's
his
an LBJ
presidency. So in a lot of ways, I think that Biden will be remembered in a similar way, where it's like, he, as far as modern presidents go, can't really deny that he was one of the better ones when it came to domestic and economic stuff. But I mean, he'll never live down, or history will never forget the blood.
He just
on
never
his
got
hands.
his Civil Rights Act, though. You know what I mean? He never had a chief piece
true.
of legislation that would define him. He's almost more like a footnote president, if we're being real, like a William Howard Taft. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that guy did when he was president. I think that's how most people in 100 years, if we're still a country, will think about Joe Biden. So when you read about him in the history book, you got to think of the blurb that you're like a 6th grade kid in social studies, right? And you're bored out of your mind, and you're hitting your vape pen that you stole from your older brother, and you're reading a little, paragraph that's got dicks and whatever the hell else drawn all over it. And it's like, oh, he was the first guy to stand on the picket line, and he pulled our troops out of this country, Afghanistan. Interesting.
And I guess you're right. I mean, it's really only in comparison to presidents like Obama and Clinton and Bush that his economic and domestic achievements even look remotely impressive. You're right. If you actually compare it to someone like LBJ, he hasn't really done anything that's going to go down in history as a hugely monumental achievement, even in a domestic sense.
It could have been his infrastructure bill, and
Right.
he fumbled the bag so hard on that. Guys, this was one of the things that almost destroyed our channel. We had Ryan Grimm on, who's a good friend of the show, and we had this really good debate with him on about infrastructure bill, but at the time our audience was deranged and they couldn't handle like legitimate just policy discussions. Anyway, we talked about how it was absolutely absurd that Premier Jayapal would consider splitting up the bills. There was either going to be a bipartisan infrastructure bill or a Democratic Party infrastructure bill. And basically the only strategy that would work was halting all infrastructure bill progress, right? Tying that together and forcing the Republican Party to spend more money than they would ever really want to, right? I think Bernie Sanders was pushing for like $6 to $9 trillion over 10 years, right? And we got nowhere close to that. We got like $500 billion. It was an absolute fucking disgrace because Premier Jayapal agreed to lend the Progressive Caucus support to the bipartisan bill in the House.
Total bullshit.
And it was a huge mistake. And it was so obvious. And the writing was on the wall. And then they never passed anything else. So
I also wanted to quickly take a look at this from a recent Trump rally. You guys can get a taste of the ways in which Donald Trump is going to attack or try to mock Kamala Harris. So far, I think this is total weak sauce. I think he's going to have to workshop this one a little bit.
Yeah, let's see here.
From the moment we take back the White House from crooked Joe Biden and Kamala, I call her Laughing Kamala. You ever watch her laugh? She's crazy. You can tell a lot by a laugh. No, she's crazy. She's nuts. She's not as crazy as Nancy Pelosi, crazy Nancy. From the moment.
Yeah, so pretty weak, right? And I mean, he even says she's not as crazy as Nancy Pelosi. So it's like, oh, she's not. Okay, all right. I guess she's not that bad then.
He doesn't have any material on her. I think he was desperate, as you've said before, to keep Biden in the race. Who wouldn't be, right? In fact, Steve Bannon himself on the sloppy Steve Meister before he was arraigned, went on a podcast and said that he thinks Trump's most concerned about them swapping out the candidate because he thinks Joe Biden's so easy to beat. In fact, Gavin, we compared it to the Joshua Dobbs phenomenon, right? Joshua Dobbs, an astronaut. Been talking a lot about astronauts on air recently, conveniently enough, that started a few games for the Minnesota Vikings. And boy, as an astronaut's prone to, I guess, he really went for the full supernova. His first game, he had like 5 days to prepare after Kirk Cousins got hurt, or whoever was playing before him got hurt. Gets brought in, doesn't even have a full week, doesn't know the playbook, is getting called into the ear, just backyard football, not NFL football, and he's throwing like crazy, and he's making passes. Oh my God, is Josh Dobbs the next Patrick Mahomes? How did we sleep on this guy? No, nobody had any tape on him. Nobody had any footage on the guy. They'd never seen him before. They didn't know how he played. They prepared for some other guy that played different, right? But the next time a team plays Josh Dobbs, they're like, oh, okay, seems like he kind of does this, right? But he's still playing good. He's still hard to figure out. 3 games in, whole league's got this guy's fucking number. He's not a starting quarterback. Get this guy the fuck out of here, right? I think the change, the fact that it's only 4 months away from the election, I don't know if Donald Trump is going to have enough time to reworkshop. He's not as quick as he once was. He's not as sharp on the mic. And he's probably going to just resort to the fact that his voting pool hates black women for the most part. And I think that's actually going to divide him from the rest of the country because most people aren't like fucking straight up racist like that.
And not just Donald Trump, but I actually think the amount of just disgusting, unhinged racism and misogyny that we're about to see in regards to Kamala Harris is really going to be a huge turnoff for a lot of Americans. And again, it's not even just going to have to come from Donald Trump. Donald Trump can try to be as classy as possible, but there's no way to, keep your supporters in check. There's no way to keep your unhinged mob of...
what's Tim Pool going to be saying?
Right. And just all these, random Trump supporters online and in the media, they're going to be, going low, right? They're going to be crafting pretty reprehensible and problematic attacks, which again is not the kind of thing that, you know, generally we're fucking pearl clutching about, but it is going to be a turnoff to a lot of Americans, specifically as Trump is trying to be this new, like, now I'm interested in uniting the country. And he said in his RNC, I'm not just running to, you know, represent half the country. I'm running to represent the whole country. Well, that's going to be hard to prove when your supporters are out here behaving in a reprehensible
They're already
fashion.
pissed that you let a guy who's married to an Indian woman be on the ticket.
Exactly.
Which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk a little bit about what you think the best strategy for Kamala Harris is, because as you saw there, you know, Trump's going after her for laughing, right? That's the best he has on her, apparently, that she
joy.
laughs a lot. Yeah, exactly. But I actually think that, you know, is an interesting question about how she should kind of try to come off. I've said before that there's two Kamalas, right? One Kamala is the serious Kamala, the prosecutor Kamala, the campaign
Kamala.
trail Kamala. Yeah, the top cop Kamala, very serious, buttoned up. You know, I'm not here to take any shit, right? That's one form. The other one is like the kind of ditzy wine mom Kamala. That's the one that Trump is referencing when he says laughing Kamala. Obviously, a lot of people suspect that she was, you know, on some benzos perhaps over the course of her vice presidency. Who knows if that's true? But she has that energy, right, where it's kind of like, you know, haha, like I'm a kind of suburban wine mom kind of thing. I actually think she needs to marry the two. They're both valuable, but she just can't lean in too much to one or
Thread the needle,
other. Yeah, in certain circumstances, like on a debate stage and stuff, obviously, I think that the you know, prosecutor is necessary. She needs to literally prosecute the case against Donald Trump. That's one of the worst things about Joe Biden, is the fact that he literally could not do that. Trump is great at weaseling out of you know, facts, honestly, the reality of the situation regarding his criminal indictments and his felonies and his court cases. He loves to weasel out of that stuff. And it's been easy for him to weasel out of it because Joe Biden is so incompetent at prosecuting the case and articulating the genuine nature and gravity of Donald Trump's crimes that it's made it easy on Trump. That's not going to be the case anymore. Kamala Harris can articulate in a razor sharp and prosecutorial fashion what this guy has done, what he's guilty of, and why the American people shouldn't trust him with power once again. So there's the prosecutor. But I also think the wine mom is a valuable asset to Kamala. I think she should lean into it to some extent, although she can't go over the board, you know, into goofiness, which would be a problem. But I would, you know, advise her not to totally, you know, lean away from that. I actually think it makes her more likable. Like I said, total wine mom vibes. Everyone probably knows a, you know, nice lady like Kamala who's a little bit, you know, wealthier, a little bit privileged, but, you know, she's still a nice lady. She knows how to have a good time, crack open a bottle of fucking Prosecco and enjoy the night. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the vibe I get from Kamala. I do think she should lean into that. I think it makes her more relatable. I think it makes her come off as less of a coastal elitism and elitist and more of just like a normal person. So we'll see how she's able to balance those, you know, different modes.
You know what I think is also really important about Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, and I imagine whomever she chooses to run with, which we'll get into a little deeper before we wrap the live stream, it's her age, dude. I think the fact that she's a younger woman, she's in her 50s, which obviously isn't a spring chicken, but I don't think you want that for the presidency, right? The president has always been about somebody in that stage of life. You are still in your physical, cognitive prime, assuming you're not an athlete, right? You haven't worn and torn down into your geriatric years. You're not sunsetting like Joe Biden is. I think a lot of people in this country will take one look at Donald Trump and one look at the younger person and be like, I'm going to bet on that guy. I'm going to bet on the young guy, the young woman.
Yep. 100%. And honestly, I think some people are, you know, like I think they're too up their ass or too in their heads or too online when it comes to this election. And they want to throw out all these excuses about like, Democrats, you know, voters, they're not going to like the chaos of this. They're not going to like the fact that this new candidate is being shoved in their face and it's unprecedented and it's this and it's that. And she's a black person and she's a woman and like all these excuses.
DEI president.
DEI, all this crap, right? I think people are really overthinking this. And I think you just hit the nail right on the head, Zach. Let's be honest, guys. Most people in this country, they're going to take a look at the options and they're going to be like, you know what? It's been about, 8+ years since just an adult has been in charge, right? Someone who feels like a competent adult. I think there's a big appetite for that, regardless of Kamala's baggage, regardless of her race and gender. I think most people in this country, they want the fucking, like, think about, investors in a corporation or something. Think about voters like that. Like, investors in a corporation or a company, they want the CEO to just be someone who's going to steer the ship in a sound way, someone who's not going to mess things up or, drag the whole project into chaos. They just want someone who can do a competent job more than anything else. And I think a lot of American voters kind of are looking at it the same way. They're like, this country has been chaotic. It feels like a mess. It feels like the world's about to end. It feels like a decaying empire. Let's just put someone who's an adult in charge. Let's just put someone who's a normal person, who's not a dementia patient, who's not a criminal, who's not out for revenge or their ego, but just a normal ass adult. I think there's a big appetite for that.
I think that's a lot of what the big appetite was in 2008, Gavin.
Yep.
Gavin and I are in a unique position. We forged our friendship following as fifth graders as much as you can follow, right? Our parents both watched the news a lot. So I got the Fox News. Like, my grandpa had those decks of cards he would sell of America's most wanted terrorists and shit. I'm not even kidding, dude. So
I hope he still has that.
I remember my dad had me watch on our computer in the kitchen when Saddam Hussein got hung. One of my fundamental political moments, right? So we've been following this for a long time. And I think the appetite that I've reflected on for a lot of people who my dad would have just called libs were people who just were tired of the stupidity, the idiocy, the shame that came along with George W. Bush.
Totally.
Obviously, the wars didn't help. The wars don't help Joe Biden, right? And the Iraq and Afghanistan wars were way more all-consuming than even what we've seen in Israel-Palestine. I think people just want a sense of calm for a while. And now the pendulum will swing back. Is that going to be a solution? Are we talking about reform in this country? No. We're actually talking about something that's pretty easy to forecast, right?
We're talking about delaying fascism by just another 4 years. It's all good.
That, but also, what did people want after 4 years of just stability, right? They wanted to fuck shit up. They're like, man, it's been too quiet. Like, Obama did all this shit. Nobody even batted an eye.
They gave the lane for both Bernie and Trump to emerge, honestly.
And I think that'll happen again after people see what Kamala has to offer. Like, I'm no Kamala simp. I don't think she's going to be great for the country. Again, all of this is predicated on the fact that I think she's a far more capable candidate than Joe Biden at defeating Donald Trump. That's a lot of people, as we've pointed out. She's just the only one I think that was going to be able to land on the ticket.
Yeah. And I mean, look at Barack Obama. Like, he's easily the most beloved modern U.S. president, obviously the most beloved figure in the Democratic Party. Yeah. But guess what? It's not because of his policies. It's not because of anything he actually did when he was president. If you ask your average Democratic voter who loves Obama, like, why, what do you miss about
the basketball court in the White House?
Yeah, they're not gonna start listing off like policy achievements that Obama is responsible for. They're not gonna start talking about. They're probably not even gonna mention like Obamacare, which was like his signature achievement. What are they gonna say about what they miss about Obama? They're gonna say, I miss not feeling embarrassed to be an American. I miss, feeling like I could just kind of check out of politics and live my life without having to check the news every day like a freaking, crack addict or something, waiting to see if Donald Trump just pressed the nuclear button.
Let us check the news every day like crack addicts for you.
Exactly.
Subscribe to the Vanguard.
And Biden was supposed to be the anecdote to that. Biden was supposed to make things normal again. That's kind of why he was elected. People did see it as a return to the Obama era. But the chaos continued under Obama, and in large part thanks to the fact that he couldn't properly communicate to the American public. He couldn't inspire people or imbue any sort of optimism into our discourse in the way that Obama did. Again, things weren't great under Obama. The economy was falling apart. Lots of, shit was terrible. But he made
a million people lost their homes. We went from 2 wars to 7.
Exactly.
Edward Snowden had to flee to Russia. We could go on.
Yeah, exactly. But he still looked back on very positively, especially by Democrats, but even just by people. Like, I remember Joe Rogan said that Obama was the greatest president of his lifetime or something. Like, literally just
he was
normie
good for
people.
The rich. That's true.
Normie people have a positive, idea of Obama, right? Like, people that
he was handsome, he was well spoken, he could engage with the public really well. He was kind of our generation's JFK who wasn't assassinated. I think he did a lot of fucking bad shit, man. But I'll tell you what, that aura of the time, the zeitgeist of the time. Wow, our camera's trying to autofocus on us in a funny way. Sorry, guys. He just made the world seem calmer. He made all and what he did that was genius, guys. If you want to talk about the genius of Barack Obama, he was like, I know what I'm going to do. Everybody's going to love me because I'm going to replace our soldiers with drones, and I'm just going to kill poor people overseas all the time.
Yep. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that Kamala Harris is nearly as talented as Barack Obama. She's definitely not. She's nowhere near as inspiring or as, like one of a kind generational political talent, not even close. But I do think that the bar is even lower now than it was in 2008. Now we've endured a Trump presidency, a Biden presidency, and that's basically the only options, right? So yeah, I do think a lot of people are just going to choose the kind of calming force, back to normalcy option. And, we'll have to see how Kamala does on the campaign trail. That's obviously the other thing. It's possible she totally shits the bed. But I think if she can just kind of remain competent, deliver the case against Donald Trump in a compelling way, and, try to carry forward some of the better aspects of Biden's policy as it relates to unions, then yeah, I think that the Democrats are totally back in this thing. I think it's going to be a real race. I'm not prepared to say that Trump is definitely going to lose or anything.
The
like
swing
that.
states are what I care about now. Can she make up 10 points in Arizona? Can she make up 7 points in Pennsylvania? Right.
Yep. Exactly.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about, Gavin, is who's the smartest pick for vice president for Kamala Harris? How do we get the strongest ticket in opposition to Donald Trump, given the fact that we know Kamala is likely to be on the top of it?
I mean, my top 3 guys are Andy Beshear, Roy Cooper, and I guess Mark Kelly. I'm not.
Who's Roy Cooper?
He's the governor of North Carolina.
And what do we like about him?
Apparently, he's never lost an election, and he's beloved by the people. I don't really know much else about him.
Well, there we go. Checks 2 boxes.
Yeah. He seems like a decent Democrat at that level. Again, I need to do a lot more homework on all of these people, but I do
we'll
understand.
Come back with the spicy stream tomorrow. This was breaking news, so we're like, so we haven't done any prep. There's no notes. This is all off the cuff. Sorry, it's choppy.
Exactly, 100%. But I do understand the electoral case for Mark Kelly. I definitely think putting Arizona in play would be important.
And that would help. Yeah. That would help get Arizona back in there, because then you could, here's my strategy, not to cut you off, but I think Arizona has to be brought back in play. I think if the Mark Kelly, if the idea that picking a vice president from a state helps you, then they need to pick a vice president from one of 3 states, Arizona, Pennsylvania, or Wisconsin. Those are the hardest states to make up ground without the vice president coming from there. I think Arizona and Pennsylvania are the 2 toughest. I think North Carolina is gone if you don't take that guy, and it might be gone anyway. So I would say that would be the only downside to the North Carolina guy that's never lost an election. Although Arizona might be gone too. We just don't know. Yeah. We just don't know, everybody. This fucked all the polling. Gavin and I have followed all the polling. Now all that polling is worthless. We also don't know if RFK is going to bow out. He hasn't done much. He's kind of pussyfooted back and forth. He came on our show and suggested that he was, going to retire his candidacy, but we haven't heard anything official since.
Yep. Yeah, they all definitely have interesting things they bring to the ticket. Audrey French points out that Mark Kelly is Gabby Giffords' husband, so he has a sympathy vote. He can be like, yeah, my wife actually got shot, unlike Donald Trump.
Why the feds worry about me plotting on this corner when there's politicians out here getting popped in Arizona? We made that reference yesterday.
Yep. And also he is a former astronaut, as people are pointing out in chat, which obviously a lot of people just kind of respect. If you're an astronaut, people are, Mark Kelly doesn't even really come off like a Democrat. He just kind of comes off like an astronaut. Like, I'm interested in the country, in America, and I like to, make things better. Like, he doesn't come off
astronaut code for secret funding for the military industrial complex, Gavin. God.
A lot of people are also pointing out that Andy Beshear would make a great running mate, specifically because he's from Kentucky. That would provide a good Rust Belt, or not Rust Belt so much, but kind of Appalachian contrast to J.D. Vance, who, of course, is Trump's running mate. If you could imagine a debate between Andy Beshear and J.D. Vance, I think that would make a pretty good contrast. Andy Beshear could actually talk about his Kentucky roots, and they could, go back and forth on that kind of stuff. So I think Andy Beshear is probably my personal pick. If I was Kamala, that's who I would go with. But obviously, she has to vet these people. They have to figure out who has the least amount of, scandals and Oppo research that's going to be dug up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Andy Bashir, I think, would be the most exciting, probably. I think he probably has the best working class instincts out of anybody that we could get on the ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if she picked John Fetterman?
Oh God, that's definitely not going to happen. If it's anyone from Pennsylvania, it'll be Josh Shapiro, who recently became the governor of Pennsylvania.
But people are less likely to go with, leave right after they've won an election, right? Is this his first term as governor?
Yep.
So that might be something that puts a damper on it. Whereas Fetterman, get him out of the Senate,
It's not going to be.
I'm kidding.
Way too divisive.
It's gonna be Bernie Sanders.
It's funny because if Fetterman was the same Fetterman that we thought he was when he was on the campaign trail, then he would be my number one choice. But unfortunately, he's
basically brain dead now.
Yeah, literally.
What do you think about Sherrod Brown?
I like Sherrod Brown, or I think it's Sherrod Brown, but I like Sherrod Brown a lot. I mean, I know people are going to immediately point out every terrible thing about him, but he genuinely does seem to be a little bit more of like an economic populist when it comes to Democrats.
He's kind of like an Elizabeth Warren in my brain, but I don't know if he's probably a little to the right of Elizabeth Warren.
Probably a little bit, but maybe to the left of her on certain issues. So Sherrod Brown's interesting. I haven't really thought about that. That would be crazy if that potentially put Ohio in play, although I don't even think that's really possible. I think Trump's just is going to win Ohio no matter what.
Oh, yeah, dude. I think Ohio's toast, even with Kamala, man. Listen, that's why it was such horseshit for them to say that Joe Biden. Think about the people who were lying to you just yesterday, guys. Think about the people who were lying to you just yesterday. AOC coming out here, 2 days ago. Was it yesterday?
2 days ago.
2 days ago saying, oh, no, we have to have Joe Biden because of the laws in Ohio, a state that Democrats have no fucking chance of winning, by the way. And also Nate Silver, who I retweeted this morning, confirming before Joe Biden stepped down that they were repeating this lie. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and throw this up on stream. Guys, it's so fucking shameless how the media will just lie to you. I know we say that all the time, and that's why we do independent media, and that's why you listen to two jabronis like us, who I promise you we're well informed, but it's a goddamn shame that you have to listen and get your news from us if you want to not spend your whole life sifting through the muck like we do. If you don't want to go gray before you're 30, Jesus Christ, try and, get the TLDR instead. But this is Speaker Johnson, right? Telling whoever this Martha lady is, she looks like a Martha. Anyway, Martha was the name of my grandma's dog when I was a kid, who had a similar kind of a look to this lady. She was a Shih Tzu, they had a similar haircut. Anyway, sorry, I'm not trying to slander this woman. I don't know who the fuck she is. The Democrats might run into some legal impediments, yada yada yada. Right? Why would I listen to this fucking Republican Mike Lee, Speaker of the House? Nate Silver says he's lying. There's no Democratic nominee yet, so there are zero legal impediments to replacing Biden on the ticket, but it's revealing that Republicans would desperately love Biden to continue running. Why do I put that out there? Because exactly what you were hearing from Republicans like Mike Johnson and Republicans like Donald Trump, that, the Democrats just need to keep Joe Biden at the top of the ticket, was the same stupid shit you were hearing from Bernie Sanders. It was the same stupid shit you were hearing from AOC, and they were lying to you, just like Jamie Harrison was lying to you. They could do whatever they want. They ensure that the DNC can do whatever the fuck they want without any legal ramifications. We already know they don't even have to respect the primary results. Thanks, Podesta emails. So,
yeah.
Why, Gavin, did AOC and Bernie decide to just be played by Biden? Why did he let them? Why did they let him bend them over a barrel? I literally can't fathom it, dude. I'm short circuiting here as I'm trying to pose this question to you.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, even it's crazy. I mean, like I said, it was so obvious to me that Biden wasn't going to be the nominee after everything we saw since the debate. I don't know how they possibly could have felt otherwise, because the only way it would make sense is if they genuinely thought and genuinely had information to suggest that Biden would be the nominee. And they figured that since he will be the nominee, we have to get on his good side. We have to continue to curry favor with him, et cetera, because he's the only possible next Democratic president. But like I said,
which is a pushover mentality, by the way. You should always be fighting for what you believe is the correct solution.
Yeah, but that's the only way it makes sense to me. Like I said, I truly don't really understand it, specifically because AOC, in a very paranoid and bizarre way, was speculating that, trust me, guys, if if Biden's not the nominee, it's not going to be Kamala either. They're going to fucking make it Hillary Clinton.
A lot of people were tweeting about that even yesterday. Like one guy tweets out about the jungle primary,
Mhm.
and that was the entire diatribe.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, Biden did endorse Harris immediately. Now everyone else is immediately endorsing Harris, as everyone expected. And even delegates are now posting online that they plan to vote for Harris. So it's like, what was this conspiracy? What were you talking about? Because like I said, it almost sounded as if she was hinting that like they're trying to install Hillary Clinton or like some hyper establishment creature that would be so revolting to the left that we would all get in line behind Joe Biden at even the thought of this other establishment character being shoved down our throats. And it's like, what are you talking about? The vice president is almost certainly going to take over in the event that Joe Biden steps down. We're seeing that play out now. Obviously, it's going to be basically impossible to deny her that. That was a great tweet. Yeah.
Dude, nobody thought this was funny but me and Gavin, apparently. But this was all I could think of when I saw that Hillary Clinton leak come out. It was like, oh, it's going to be Hillary Clinton. This is who I imagine AOC and Bernie Sanders was getting their intel from. It was, deep inside the Biden campaign. It's actually just a cracked out hunter, with 6 hookers in a hotel room running the show. Anyway.
Yep. So I'm going to be super
embarrassing.
excited to, keep track of everything we hear in the coming days. I'm really interested to read some reporting on how exactly this went down, on whether or not his family members were truly holding out until the last minute trying to keep him in there. Like I want to know where Jill Biden and Hunter Biden were when this decision was made. I want to know to what extent they were participants in the decision making, or if they were resisting this obvious inevitability until the last minute. This is the kind of juicy drama that I can't wait to hear about. I would read an entire book about the final weeks of the Joe Biden presidency. I really think this is one of the craziest, most unprecedented moments in American political history that either of us have lived through, at least as far as electoral politics goes. And I also think it's worth noting here, as we begin wrapping up this stream, Zach and I created the Vanguard podcast pretty much right after Bernie Sanders went down and Joe Biden clinched the Democratic nomination. So today, July 21st, is basically the first kind of post-Biden era Vanguard episode. Yes, I know he's still the president. He will
Lame
be.
duck president.
Yeah, he will be until November. But still, this is a monumental moment, guys. You have no idea how much this race is about to change. You have no idea how much the political landscape is about to change now that, there's this switch occurring. And it's honestly an end of an era. It truly is the end of an era, because even though Biden was president for the first time, he was still kind of like connected to the Obamas, who he was the vice president of, and this whole Democratic leadership structure that is about to change. We're finally actually going to get some fresh leadership, some young blood in charge of the DNC. And I'm not saying that's going to make it better or more progressive or anything like that, but it is the beginning of a new era. Finally, the Democrats are going to have some new people in charge, some fresh blood, hopefully
younger people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
not
I think
these dinosaurs from like 1960s and shit.
I think it's finally the fall of, for sure, the silent generation, and I believe the erosion of the monolith of the boomer in American politics. Obviously, there are based boomers. A lot of people who listen to our podcast are like by birth boomers. But as we remind everyone constantly, it's a state of mind, okay? I know people my age who are fucking boomers, okay? If Gavin says some stupid shit like, oh, no, I didn't really like that album, I'll be like, you boomer, you didn't get it. No, I'm sorry, it was for the kids. You know what I mean? Anyway, but the reality is it's an antiquated way of doing politics versus a modern way of doing politics. And the Democrats are getting smacked around even though their ideas are more popular. The progressives were getting bodied so bad during the Biden years because our leader betrayed us, abandoned us, left us high and dry, bet on a losing fucking dog, Mitski style. You know what I'm saying? Bernie put all of his eggs in Joe Biden's basket. And what did he get? Fuck all, dude. He got fuck all. He got a photo up on a picket line. Okay? Even though it was a historic photo. You know what I mean? That was the beginning of the end. We knew it. When we started this podcast, We've done it for 4 years, guys. We're actually working on a written piece. We want to start putting out more written content for you guys. But we realized our entire podcast has actually been an effort to chronicle the fall of the progressive movement. We were called the TMZ Guard. We were called the Drama Guard. We were called whatever, slander. But look who's out on top now, guys. Look who forecast that shit like a motherfucker. Not me, Gavin, right? One of us did. So we're halfway there. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to pass him the ball so he can dunk it. You know what I mean? It's a 2-person podcast. Anyway, smash the like button, guys. We've been calling this shit for a long time. And unfortunately, now is the time to start a new chapter. Now is the day that we can actually be hopeful for the future. Is Kamala going to solve our problems? No. But now we have an opportunity where people are going to be engaged again. What was the hardest thing for me and Gavin to battle as commentators is that nobody gave a fuck.
Yep.
Nobody gave a fuck. So we're beating our heads against each other, trying to figure out how do we make this exciting? How do we make this engaging? How do we make people care again? Well, guess what, dudes? Now people are going to care naturally because this is an open-ass political event now. This is a wide open. We're unburdened by what has been. That's right, Isaiah. So it's time to get out your fucking fishing poles because we're going to catch some new lefties. We're going to catch some new progressives. And we're going to talk about why Kamala is better than Donald Trump while still being entirely inadequate for the moment. Will Kamala meet the moment? No. But will she drag us into a dark portal of hell we will never come back out of? I don't believe so. So those are our options right now. And we're going to unpack those as we move forward. Gavin, do you have anything else to add before we plow into the very generous pile of super chats that you've all graciously provided us today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great day. It's a great day to be an American, guys. I'm really looking forward to this election. It's just been depressing. I mean, even just from the kind of selfish perspective as political commentators, this being our first real general election to cover. And up until about a month ago, it was boring as shit. As Zach said, only diehards were paying attention. People that were just straight up political.
Many days
junkies.
we wanted to quit.
Yeah, exactly. And now, you know, as you said, a lot more people are going to be paying attention. A lot more people are going to be interested in politics in this election. And as you said, obviously, Kamala Harris, she's a liberal. We're on the left. We are not the same. However, almost every leftist starts as a liberal. We have to keep that in mind, guys. So if a bunch of new people get involved in politics because of this, if a bunch of people get excited about, you know, supporting the Democrats to defeat Donald Trump, well, guess what? That's a lot more people that are a lot easier to convert into progressives and actual lefties than anyone on the Trump side. And if he were to take power, then it would make it almost impossible for there to be a serious, leftist movement to emerge again. So I think this is a big deal for those reasons. It provides us a real opening. It makes people pay attention again. It makes this exciting again. It makes it a lot easier for us to do our goddamn jobs. And yeah, I'm super, super excited. This is going to be a great election. This is going to be a lot of fun, guys. We're going to be, bringing you news and commentary and updates pretty much every single day until November. Because as I keep stressing, guys, you have no idea how much this is about to change. You have no idea. I've been saying this to people, even just in my own personal life for the last couple of days. I kind of feel like I did right before COVID hit. A lot of people were still in denial about it. They were like, oh, nothing's going to change. This is just like every other fake pandemic. I'm like, no, this one's real. Your life is about to permanently change. You have no idea what's about to go down. Obviously, this is nowhere near as monumental as that. But in a similar way, I still feel like even with the news breaking this morning, some people haven't quite registered just what a different race we're already in now.
It's a new America, Gavin.
It's at least a new race.
It's morning again in America.
Like seriously though, like for the next until November, this race is going to be so much different. We're going to be playing on a whole different battlefield than we were, guys. The whole election was going to be about Biden's age. The entire freaking election was going to be about whether or not an 80-year-old dementia patient was, able to serve as president of the United States. Now, that's not going to be the conversation anymore. Now we're actually going to be talking about the future of this country. As corny as it sounds, that's what the conversation is going to be about. It's actually going to be about ideas and, the vision of the Democratic Party versus the fascism of the Republican Party, which is what the dynamic should have always been. And that's not to say that I don't think that Democrats, represent a certain, a level of fascism themselves. I absolutely do, especially abroad. But at least it's going to be an actual race. At least it's actually going to feel like a political contest to at least some degree.
Oh, 100%. And we're going to be following the ins and outs of it. Tomorrow's show is going to be jam-packed. We tentatively have a very, very, very special guest. Other than that, we will be live breaking down the ins and outs, all of the noteworthy reactions from people in Congress, from the senators, political elite, think pieces that emerged in the wake of this. Aaron Sorkin championing Mitt Romney for a fucking presidential nominee. This is crazy, man. I have to put this other tweet up. I had 2 tweets that I thought were really funny in the last 24 hours that just bombed because I guess I'm the only person that remembers politics from 2012 besides Gavin. I put this up. Super stoked for the new Aaron Sorkin film, Dog on the Roof, on the road with Mitt and Mutt. But people nowadays, they don't really get that humor. In 2012, one of the humble political scandals back when it was about wearing jeans and a brown suit and Grey Poupon on your sandwich. That what a different America we were living in. That's the America people want to get back to. By the way, when we were like, were times really that different back in 2012? I was asking Gavin that yesterday. I was like, man, is it just us or was politics different back then? He was like, yes, it was so different. The Republicans would get outraged about dumb shit and then the Democrats would fall for it. It was a completely different political landscape than maybe I should just never leave office again. You know what I mean? That just wasn't on the table.
Yep. And I do think a lot of people want to get back to that. Like, even I saw a clip going viral the other day. And again, it's cringe. I'm not trying to like glorify civility politics. I know that it's cringe. And I know that the substance is far more important. But I do think when we're talking about how normies vote and how they think about things, there's this viral clip going around of John McCain, in famous moment on the 2008 campaign trail where one of his supporters says, I think I've heard that Barack Obama is an Arab. And he says, ma'am, I know you've heard that, but I just want to let you know that Senator Obama is a good man. He's an honest man. He's a family man. And there's nothing to be scared of if he wins the presidency. Even if he beats me, you don't need to be scared. He's not an anti-American. He's not a traitor. He's not a Muslim, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously John McCain was vile, but I do think that a lot of just, again, normie people that aren't unhinged, radicalized, crazy people, they do want to return to a level where it doesn't feel like every single election is existential, where it doesn't feel like if they vote for the wrong person, then America as we know it and democracy as we know it will erode and dissolve and the empire will collapse. That's not a good mood. That's not a good political climate.
It's not good for your brain.
It's not good for your brain, your mental health. People actually want to decide elections based on differing and competing visions for the country economically, in a foreign policy sense, etc. They don't want to feel like every election is the end of the world if they make the wrong decision. So who knows? Maybe I'm in an echo chamber. Maybe other people in the country want to preserve this rabid insanity. But I think that a lot of people are going to want the return to normalcy that wasn't provided by Biden, but they, could see provided by a different Democratic ticket, a younger, fresher Democratic ticket. And yeah, throw back to Mitt Romney.
Bro, this is the different world we were living in back then. Mitt Romney, my favorite meat is hot dog. You know what I mean? Come on.
What's funny because hot dog is probably like an
amalgamation of pig parts that have been blended together.
Not just that, fucking pig, cow, and chicken parts sometimes. Sometimes it's just like a meal of fucking
if
meat.
you get crappy hot dogs, sure. But a lot of times it's beef too, like Hebrew National all beef franks.
There you go.
And as a vegetarian, I thought you would encourage using all parts of the animal, including all the like unknown fibrous materials they produce.
All the scraps off the slaughterhouse
the live
floor.
chickens that just go straight into the chicken nugget machine. Dude, it is fucked up. I don't eat I eat a lot of meat, obviously, but I do my best to not eat the seriously fucked up purveyors of animal cruelty. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. So you guys are winning the cause. It's less controversial now. We only got 1 or 2 comments yesterday about how you need to be a vegan, though. That was the people, they're trying to recruit you, Gavin. Vegetarian, it's never enough for them. You know what I mean? I'm working on it. You know what I mean? It's never enough. Anyway,
let's get to some super chats. Yeah. Got a couple to respond to. Thank you guys all for tuning in and celebrating with us on today's podcast. It's been a lot of fun. This is a day I've been waiting for a long time. So yeah, let's
plow into these motherfuckers. Hey, it's okay. It's the end of the.
You will find at the end of the show, and I can't go. It's our audio.
There we go. Oh shit. There we go. All right, let me see. Now I just have to cancel this one. No, oh, that was the wrong one. I think that.
Oh. LOL.
Oh. All right, now we're back for Rizzy. All right, can you guys hear us now? Everybody in the chat, give us one confirmation. Through top vans aren't real. Story on
Pop Herm. I think the problem is, I think you're a comrade on the Patreon. You're a patron, not a member. You have to be a YouTube member to watch the live stream. So sorry about that, man. I know it's a little bit confusing for people. We try to make it as clear as possible, but the live stream watching is a member perk. So that's on YouTube membership, which is different from Patreon. You can support us on either or, but they have slightly different perks that, like I said, we try to be as clear about as possible. Sorry for the confusion if you were a little bit confused, but yeah, that's a member thing.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Popper. Just double check in. Okay, yes, everybody can hear us again. Sweet. Yeah, no, it was Mitt Romney Brigade, Aaron Sorkin. I think they plotted a hack on our podcast a second ago. Audio hiccup. Right when I was warming up to him, Joe Verbaidon. I was never warming up to the guy. It was always cold, stale, moldy vibes from Biden. Now he's Biden.
Yeah. To be honest, I feel like, having seen more clips of Joe Biden from back in the day, like 90s and 2000s Joe Biden, like at debates and stuff, I do have to say, I feel like I never quite gave Joe Biden enough credit for his skills as a politician. I feel like by the time he was running in 2020, everyone was just like, oh, he's old, he's gone, he's done, fuck Joe Biden. Everyone was just like, this old bastard piece of shit. But if you actually do watch clips of him on the debate stage, even in elections he didn't win, like in like 2004 and shit like that, like he actually was really funny. Like fuck Joe Biden, obviously from a policy perspective, but I can see why he got to where he got and was as successful as he was in politics. The dude genuinely was kind of quick-witted. He had a sort of like, mischievous sense of humor that people liked. But obviously, yeah, fuck Joe Biden. I'm glad he's gone. Also, I just saw this. Are you talking about the Pitchfork show? Because Zach and I were at the Erykah Badu concert in Chicago.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. I'm sure he saw us there.
That's fucking dope, bro.
That was back when I had a really big beard and long hair. That's
you should have said hi, Paulie. That's hilarious. No one's ever brought that up.
Yeah. Pitchforks this weekend, by the way. Shout out to my homie Sam that did the Cat Piss music. He's playing with one of his bands there. I know my homie Devin is there also, but he's just there for the vibes and the good tunes.
Yeah. Anyway, that's lit, Paulie. Yeah, I don't. It's all good. You don't have to. Anyway, but that is cool. That was a good concert, even though she took like fucking an hour and a half to come out.
But she still closed with Tyrone, which Salisa was so stoked about. So it's fun. And the Danny Brown shit that happened during that concert where he forgot like half the lyrics to his song.
That was a legendary performance.
He just was fucked up on anyway. If it's Kamala versus Trump, who do y'all think wins? I think it's too early to plant the flag, but I think that Kamala is much more in the race than Joe Biden was. What do you think, Gavin?
Kamala. If I had to bet money on it right now, I say Trump loses this election. It's a gut instinct, but I don't think that. I've always said from the beginning, like Hillary Clinton was the only person that could have lost to Donald Trump, and I think in this election, Joe Biden at his current state is almost the only Democrat that could lose to Trump this time. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel.
Yeah,
we'll see. Maybe I'll eat
your words.
Yeah,
that's okay. It happens to the best of us. Shout out to Asa Rosa. We need to get a good VP for Kamala. Yeah. I'm not sure if you, I think you probably sent this before. We spent a good while talking about some of the VP options. So hopefully you got to hear that and enjoyed that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be talking a lot more about that in the coming days. I imagine, that's going to eat up a lot of the conversation, because even though we have a new nominee, Kamala Harris, I mean, almost certainly, assuming that there's not some crazy blitz convention where another candidate gets chosen, that's highly unlikely. The VP thing, it's going to be quite a selection process, quite a show. It's going to be exciting. And, we're going to be introduced to a lot of random white Democratic governor types that you've probably never heard of before.
Yep, absolutely. Shout out to you, Asa Rosa. And shout out to you, Pedro the Lion. It's Jover, indeed. Shout out to you. Really appreciate that. $3.
Yeah, thanks, Pedro the Lion. Really appreciate you.
Shout out to Dieter, American Wasp. Obama hosting open convention is best course of action. The historic media frenzy could actually lead to candidates talking policy. Check my vid. That would be sick if it happens. Gavin and I will be covering the fuck out of an open convention. I don't know if I'm bought into the fact that that's what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure they're going to just go with Kamala and present her as like the successor to Joe Biden as his vice president. I think that's the clearest path to present to the American people right now. But if the open convention happens, yeah, I mean, we'll be covering it doggedly.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you, Dieter. And the cool thing about the open convention that not a lot of people are talking about, a lot of people are saying that, oh, if there's an open convention, then they would only do that to like take it away from Kamala. Not at all. They could easily do an open convention where it's pretty obvious that Kamala is going to come out of it victorious, but they still do a competition.
Stack the deck.
Yeah, exactly. And then, she has a massive advantage. She's already the vice president. She already has the endorsement of Joe Biden. So obviously she would win that open convention, but I still think it's a good idea. That way it looks like she actually earned her spot at the top of the ticket, that she vanquished other competitors to actually, earn that spot as the Democratic nominee. I mean, I don't think that most people would care if like she beat their preferred candidate. I think they would still unite behind her. And I think that, again, it would make it more exciting. It would make it a media frenzy like you're talking about, something that could really blow out of the water that stupid ass RNC just on a, excitement level and reality TV level. And yeah, it could lead to exactly a lot of candidates talking about policy. That way, when Americans tune in to the DNC, they're like, what am I going to watch tonight? I guess the DNC's on. Instead of just hearing a bunch of Donald Trump's like old friends talk about how awesome he is and how good at golf he is. No, they'll tune in and they'll hear a bunch of young, fresh, inspiring Democrats talking about policies that likely would improve their lives. And it's going to be inspiring.
Yeah, legitimate vision for American politics is something that the American people have been totally starved of for at least the last 4.5 years. It's been crazy. So shout out to you, American Wasp, Dieter, Mick Business, and shout out to you, Meg and Ginny. Would you like some lime with your coconut pill, Zach? LOL. Yeah, honestly, I'm not coconut pilled in the sense that I think Kamala is based. I'm coconut pilled in the fact that I need somebody on the ticket that can beat Donald Trump. And she was a clearly superior option. But I'm not sitting here like opposed to an open convention. I actually agree with Gavin that it could add validity to Kamala Harris. I think the most likely course of action is that the delegates just kind of all fall in line and that she gets the delegates that would have gone to Joe Biden. But if they do an open convention and they do seize the opportunity to create a media spectacle, to do it big, do it right, I wouldn't be opposed to somebody like Bernie Sanders being like, guys, I'm jumping in here and fucking doing this.
Oh, dude, that would be amazing. Yeah. I don't know if it would happen, but hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. That would be awesome. That'd be the best case scenario.
I also think that a super overrated talking point is that a brokered convention would cause too much chaos and that like, that would fracture the party when they need to be united or whatever. Bullshit. The more competition, the better. The more chaos, even the better. Because what happens after every chaotic primary, the party comes out of it stronger and they come out of it more united, even when it gets super, super messy. So I don't think that's a worry. I think as long as, the convention wraps and they have their candidate by the end of it in August, that it'll be fine. And the more excitement generated, the more media and attention generated, the better it is for the Dems. Even if it does get a little bit messy, we can't like be terrified of that. Also, some people are saying, Zach, and I think it's a decent point, should we try to get our asses to the convention?
Oh yeah, we should go. Actually, we could at least go for Sunday. For Sunday, we could definitely go. I honestly, we could fly out Saturday night. I have a event that I'm hosting because that's the weekend of Salisa's birthday.
Ooh.
So it's just we'd have to juggle. But I would not be opposed to going up there for that and trying to get some.
It's gonna be crazy.
It'll be crazy. Yeah, let's brainstorm on that off there because I don't want to promise or deny anything that I can't deliver on. We've learned the hard way on that about 80 fucking million times on this podcast. So I would definitely not rule that out. I have to talk to Kate and I have to talk to Lisa.
We'll start a GoFundMe, and if it gets to $20,000, we'll go.
Exactly. Gavin and I, we need to fly first class on Taylor Swift's jet. It'll be about a 40-minute airtime flight. So
and it's like 8 hours, so it's not that bad. It's not like convenient.
I would rather take the train, to be honest, because then you don't have to park your car and pay like $100 a day in a garage while some guy does the whole Ferris Bueller in my Civic. No, I'm kidding. I have a Corolla. All right, let's see. We got a few more. Shout out to you, Jay from the Natty. All those GOP vendors now sitting on tons of Let's Go Brandon t-shirt inventory. Yeah, those are going to be offloaded to Indonesia by the boatload. You're going to see a bunch of kids in like Sudan with Let's Go Brandon t-shirts on, because that's what happens to all those fucking shirts when they don't sell them.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty funny just thinking about the entire GOP right now freaking out. You have to imagine behind the scenes, the entire Republican Party, the entire Trump campaign is in a state of freak out because they basically have to start from scratch now. Like I said, they have to completely go back to the drawing board. They have to spend a bunch more money on consultants to try to figure out the best way to attack Kamala and her unknown at this point
Joshua Dobbs paradox.
But yeah, they have to, figure out new ways to attack Kamala. They're going to have to dig up Oppo research on whoever she picks as VP. They're going to have to totally restructure their entire campaign. And I think it's going to be way harder because, again, Joe Biden was just so easy. You don't have to think that hard about how to attack Joe Biden. You just play clips of Joe Biden. It's not that hard with Kamala Harris.
Literally. I imagine how right-wing media is treating this. Yeah, we already speculated on that. I think, if anything, that's a boost to Kamala Harris because they're going to be so fucking disgusting, so abhorrent, and so out of touch with the regular working person that they're going to have an isolated, dangerous, super hardcore racist bastion of the Republican Party. And then everybody else is just going to be like, fuck, those dudes give me the creeps and move on.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Most normie Americans, they're not going to like it when they see all these, disgusting Republicans saying DEI president and all this crap. Like, it's just not going to sit well with people. And even though the Republicans online and their fringes are going to think that they're so clever, the rest of the country is just going to be turned off by it. Right. And they're going to prefer the bland normalcy that is represented by Kamala Harris. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you, Megan Ginny. Interesting. Kamala versus Trump POV, Obama, McCain 2.0. I think it'll be a little bit of a different dynamic. McCain had never been a president before. I get what you're saying, but I think that Donald Trump actually carries a bunch of different baggage that John McCain didn't carry. And I think that John McCain, as Gavin illustrated, is a much more reasonable American, even though I disagreed with him on basically everything from an economic perspective. And he had weird shit that he would obsess over, like he hated MMA and he would ban it in Arizona, and he always would go to war against dudes trying to do martial arts and stuff. And he would talk about how he'd seen guys that could karate chop through cinder blocks, and there was no way that you should be able to do that to another man. And it was like, dude, nobody karate chops through cinder blocks, you fucking idiot. But whatever.
Yeah, I think that there are some similar, some similarities for sure between the races. I think the biggest difference, and one of the things that just really did make it easy for Obama, was that he was coming off of 8 years of Republican rule. Bush had been president for 2 terms. And whenever a president of either party controls the White House for that long, for 2 terms in a row, you can almost always bet on the pendulum swinging back, regardless of who the candidates are. So that was actually part of the reason that I predicted Trump would win in 2016, just because you can almost mathematically bet on the pendulum swinging back and forth on an 8-year time frame if the Republicans have been in charge for 8 years or if the Democrats have been in charge for 8 years. So in the same way Obama took advantage of that, Trump took advantage of that because Obama had been president for 8 years. People had kind of just gotten so used to it that they were like, yeah, let's, try someone else, right? That's generally how people are. So this race doesn't really have that. We've had 4 years of Trump and now 4 years of Biden. So, I don't know who's going to benefit
open
from
field,
that.
basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Meg. Really appreciate the engagement. First time I'm seeing you as a super chatter, so we welcome you to the Vanguard community. And shout out to you, Monk Without a Cause. She's our most powerful weapon now. Best would be to make her president now, pretend his COVID is worth not as exciting as an open convention. Media excitement is easy with the new press. That's not going to happen. I see what your point is, that it would be better to just unify behind her now and get her out speaking to the public. But to be honest, Joe Biden's already agreed to Nazi-free election. He's not going to withdraw, and resign from the presidency. That would really tarnish his legacy in his eyes, and I think he just won't agree to it, and I don't think you could really ask him to. If they were going to go 25th Amendment and boot him, they would have done that, but I think this is part of the exchange, and now it'll give the party the opportunity to decide on a new nominee, take whatever fanfare they decide to, whatever degree it is, whether it's more of the predictable, easygoing, the delegates that were going to go to Joe Biden now go to Kamala Harris.
Yep.
Or if there's an open convention that's exciting in Chicago. We'll look into that. But anyway, shout out to you, Monk. Really appreciate the $10. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't really think it matters if she becomes president now or at the convention, Monk. Like I said, as long as it's all wrapped up by August, I believe that gives the Democrats more than enough time. And honestly, I don't see why, we would deny the people the convention show. Like, let's be honest, that's what people want. That's what is going to actually stimulate the media coverage and the news cycle in a way that even this will not, right? Because this is a huge story today and it will be a huge story. But if you draw it out all the way until August, then this is going to be the story every day until the convention. You have to, maximize the media coverage. You have to really take advantage of this to the fullest extent possible, especially because Trump just had his huge moment with the assassination. As I said on the show the other day, this all is going down at the perfect time for the Democrats.
Takes the oxygen.
It's totally stealing the spotlight away from Trump's goofy ass assassination attempt and his stupid photo. No one cares anymore. That almost feels like it happened 4 years ago now. Like
Threat
literally
neutralized.
Yep. Now all of a sudden this is a huge thing. The media is going to obsess over it like the dogs they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is huge. You can't underestimate this. And again, the presidency, it really is an entertainment contest, guys. You cannot pretend to be above that aspect of this. Politics is entertainment, and you have to make this as big of a deal as you can. You have to draw it out for as long as you can. You have to make it as exciting as you can. You have to make it as suspenseful. A spectacle. Yes, that is what they need to do. They, in my opinion, should, again, draw it out as much as possible.
100%. Can't agree more. I actually am in the process of texting my boss and trying to reschedule the ice cream social that I promised her I would do Wisconsin Supper Club style. So we'll see what's up. Cooking with Shugs, Harris Fetterman 2024. Us, please no. Yeah, no. I was just breaking Gavin's balls a little bit because that would be the most cancerous addition to this ticket you could ever fucking imagine.
Joe Manchin and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, literally. Kristen Sinema's rejoining the Democratic Party. Mitt Romney is actually going to be the vice president under Kamala Harris. He's
Now I will vote for Trump.
Anyway, shout out to you, Cooking with Shugs. Appreciate the $2. And thank you so much, Kelly. Always great to hear from you. Chicago is going to be wild, 1968 all over again. If Marianne gets the nomination, Kelly, she won't get the nomination. That would rekindle so much hope and interest. It would be amazing. Dude, now that it's an open floor, I actually think it would be probably like the worst case scenario for Marianne Williamson to get the nominee. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say. We need somebody that the national public will actually vote for. That just wasn't something that was going to really work out. Realistically, it'll go to Newsom, Whitmer, or Harris. Actually, Newsom and Whitmer. I know Whitmer for a fact has announced that she won't seek the nomination. I don't know about Gavin Newsom. I imagine he knows it's political suicide to try and swipe it away from what would be the first black woman to ever have the top of the ticket for the Democratic Party. I think Newsom and Whitmer probably now at this point are trying to position for a vice presidential role.
Yeah. And
that could be Gavin Newsom. I would not be surprised but that's two California people. So I think they actually, we found this out about Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio.
Yep.
They can't beat Trump's VP because
yeah.
Kamala Harris's state is California.
That's a great point. Yeah, I don't know if Marianne's going to show up to the convention and try to make a case. Who knows? I mean, I hope just for the entertainment value that it happens, but obviously that's not a realistic
at this point. If somebody's going to do that, it has to be like fucking Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously it's not.
If Elizabeth Warren did that, I would even be excited.
Yeah, that would be interesting. It would be interesting to see if any progressives actually do try to step into the ring, even someone like an Elizabeth Warren or like a Ro Khanna.
Sucks Ilhan Omar can't be president.
It does, yeah. Also, a lot of people have been, talking about Gretchen Whitmer and like sharing videos of how much better she is at speaking than Kamala is and saying like, oh, she's perfect because she's from Michigan and stuff. I hear you guys, but it's not going to be Gretchen Whitmer. They cannot replace the first female black vice president with a white woman. I'm sorry, but they can't. It would be one thing to just go back to the default of like straight white men, but to be like, no, it's still going to be the first female president, but it's going to be a white lady. That's not going to fly.
Yeah, 100%. So shout out to you, Kelly. Really appreciate your contributions. Always wonderful to see you in the chat. Our favorite NorCal commenter. Anyway, shout out to Connor Lanker. I think Kamala can win Arizona. Most of the people I've talked to here have said they'll only vote if Biden drops out. Yeah, I hope so, dude. But I have seen some pretty damaging fucking polling coming out of Arizona. I know there are places where it's definitely going to go blue, like Flagstaff. Kamala can clean up there. Phoenix, I think, will be a battleground because typically the denser the area. But there's so many retirees there. It's like trying to pick up Florida back in the day. It's like, fuck, man, it's a tough call. But there also is a lot of California bleed over into Arizona. So it's a for real battleground. I don't want to say it's going to be easy. I don't want to say now that she will pick it up, but I think if she plays smart and she has a good VP, what's his name? Mark Kelly, bald guy. Don't love the way he looks. I don't love a bald vice president, to be honest. I don't, but maybe if it has to be that way to get Arizona.
Yeah, shout out to you, Connor. From what I understand about Arizona, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is a pretty suburban state, and I do feel like Kamala is going to do well in the suburbs. I feel like she has very suburban vibes, and that people in those parts of the country are going to respond well to her style of communication and what she stands for. So assuming that Arizona is pretty suburb heavy, like I believe I've heard it is, then yeah, I think Kamala is totally viable in the state, specifically if she picks Mark Kelly as her running mate, which I think is an increasingly likely possibility for the simple reason that I think that would be who Biden wants to be on the ticket. From what I know, Mark Kelly is pretty close to Biden, and Biden has a lot of respect for him. So don't be surprised at all if it's Mark Kelly, guys.
Yeah, I would put that at the top of where my bets are, but I would prefer Andy Bashir. Definitely I would prefer Andy Bashir.
Yeah.
Not Josh Shapiro. Fuck him. That guy was out here making the case for charter schools. We already dunked on that on our last stream. Become a member if you want to hear us wax and hear all of our forecasting be borne out by reality. But anyway, shout out to you, Connor Linker.
What about Mayor Q?
I know, Mayor Q. So our mayor in this city is a fucking delusional shithead, and he is like a -- Biden bro. And he's been out campaigning for the guy instead of doing a goddamn thing for the people of Kansas City. Fuck him. This is the kind of guy who will posture as like an Obama progressive and then ask for more cops from Donald Trump during George Floyd. Aldi brand Obama is what he calls himself on Twitter. Fuck him. We can't look at his Twitter because he blocked us because we spoke too much truth to local power. When I got a little hammered a few weeks ago, I started just tearing up local politicians on Twitter with the Vanguard feed. I was like, fuck you. Twitter will boost my algorithm. I've got more followers than the city council member over here. Anyway, shout out to you, Ace of Rose. SNL is gonna have more Maya Rudolph finally. Oh, did Maya Rudolph play Kamala?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what you're saying. I was like, Maya Rudolph. Isn't that Richard Linklater's wife?
I think isn't it PTA's wife?
PTA's wife. Sorry, I was like, she's married to a fucking famous filmmaker. I know that. No, it's Paul Thomas Anderson. You're right. Richard Linklater's wife, I don't think is famous. Anyway, shout out to you, Asa Rosa.
Yeah, that is a good point, though, Asa. We're gonna get a lot more of those Maya Rudolph SNL bits. That is one accurate prediction.
Absolutely. Shout out to you, Carl. It would be a kick if Obama nominates Bernie at convention.
Then we'll have to eat our words about Bernie's dog shit strategy. And then we'll be like, oh, it all makes sense now. This motherfucker was playing chess and we were over here.
I'm happy for that to happen. I'm happy. I'll punish myself on air. I'll start hurting myself. Just Gavin will burn me, a few times. I'll sacrifice my pinky finger, for the good of the people. And I'll be like, Bernie, I'm sorry.
And also, guys, I mean, I know it's not even a real conversation, but the other reason it's just not going to be Bernie Sanders is because he's even older than Joe Biden. They can't take Biden off the ticket and then put another old white guy on there who's 2 years Biden's senior, even though we all know Bernie's way more with it than Biden. It's just not going to happen. It's a chance. There's a fucking minuscule chance that if Bernie was a 60-year-old senator and had sold out to the extent that he has, that would be enough to secure him a position, but he's just too old.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to you, Carl. And shout out to Home Cooked Meals for the $5. Really appreciate that guy.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to you, Home Cooked Meals. Really appreciate the $5. Thanks so much for tuning in today.
Shout out to you. This is my grandpa. If Harris is elected, thoughts on her continuing the same policies of the Biden administration? I think she'll govern differently. I think she's going to have ambition and goals. Whether or not those goals are things that I agree with, time will tell. Most of it I won't agree with, but I'm hoping that she will try and have some flagship policy that's good for the American people. We don't know a lot about Kamala and how she'll choose to govern from the presidency. I imagine it will fall somewhere right around what a guy like Pete Buttigieg would have done if he'd become president, which is a more modern, still neoliberal kind of policy. We were talking at the beginning of the stream about whether or not she would have a good and strong NLRB, whether or not she would throw her weight behind unions like Joe Biden has. That's a concern. We're hoping that she, puts an end to the United States support for the slaughter in Palestine. I think that's going to be a tough hill to climb, but something that potentially she's more reachable on than Biden, just because she is cogent, she is conscious of her polling, and she will be looking to build a legacy. But do I have big hopes for Kamala Harris? No, I just have the big hope that she could maybe keep Donald Trump out of office, and I could give you a list of horrible things I think Donnie would do.
Yeah, I think that, by and large, I mean, she's a Democrat, Biden's a Democrat. She's going to be a Democrat, so don't expect the unexpected necessarily. But what I will say is that, I think Kamala Harris, a lot of people have been surprised by how subdued she's felt since becoming vice president. She seemed more ambitious before she got selected as VP, and a lot of people are like, where did all that go? Where did all your energy and ambition and spirit go? It seems like she's just kind of been sidelined, and that's exactly where all that energy went. It's because she got sidelined. Now we're going to see a whole new Kamala, guys. She's going to have her mojo back. Why? Because she's going to be in charge. It's her party now, guys. It's not Joe Biden's party, and she's the token black lady off in the corner there to, do defensive media appearances for
out
him.
with the Zans, in with the baggies. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And again, she's going to regain her whole spirit, her whole mojo. I'm not saying that that's going to make her a great politician or whatever, but I'm just saying, if you've been wondering why she's felt so awkward and weird and subdued lately, it's because she was being sidelined and hidden in the shadows by Joe Biden and Jill Biden, who didn't want her to thrive because they didn't want her to outshine Joe Biden. Right now, the whole dynamic is changing. Everyone's going to be bowing down to her. Everyone's going to be yes-manning her. She's going to be in charge. She's going to get her mojo back, and she's going to set the agenda. So I am really interested in seeing what comes of that, because I'll be the first to admit, over the last 3 or 4 years, I don't even know what the hell Kamala Harris is interested in, what she stands for, what policies she supports, what policies she doesn't support. I mean, other than abortion, she's just been super bland, right? So I do think that we're going to find out in the coming months what issues are the most important to her, what issues she most wants to focus the campaign on, what sort of domestic agenda and foreign policy she wants to pursue. This is all going to get hashed out in the coming weeks.
I bet she changes her position on marijuana. I bet we get a federal legalization under the former top cop of California. So we got that to look forward to, everybody. The price of crops are coming down. We're all going to get that Colorado $15 eighth allowed balance. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, shout out to you, Jay from the Natty. Zach, is an election season wine and coconut water cocktail going to be served at the bar? Well, right now, our special for last week, I've been doing this thing where every week I come up with a special and I name it after like a summer pop song. So I've done like the Cruel Summer, the Taylor Swift song. I did the Pink Pony Club. We've been doing a bunch of Chapel Roan songs because she's really big with the people who come into our bar. So I did the Red Wine Supernova this weekend. It was like a riff on a New York sour, but I infused the rye whiskey we had with pitted English black cherries, which was pretty nice. Did a nice like Demerara with it, and it has that nice ring of red on top because it's different viscosity. So it's a nice float on there, very striking image. Coconut, don't have any coconut water on our menu right now, but my homie Devin does this cocktail called the Poppy Show, which is based off of, I believe, like an old Mexican fable, or maybe it's an Aztec indigenous fable. I don't want to miscredit it, but long story short, it's got meloncello that I make with coconut milk in it. So that's close enough. It's really good. You would like it if you ever come into my fucking bar. I get Gavin in afterward like once a year because he'll be like, "Oh, it's pretty crowded in there," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, it's a busy bar, but you can shove your way to the front and get a cocktail. I won't even charge you for it."
Yeah, I need to check that out. Shout out to you, Jay, from that. That is a good idea. And honestly, it reminds me, this is like one of those weeks I would love to be living in Washington, D.C., because I imagine you go to any bar tonight, they're going to be selling a coconut pill cocktail. You know what I'm saying? Like all the fucking places around DC love to lean into the, current events. That's where Watergate salad came from during the Watergate era. All these fucking restaurants around DC started serving Watergate salad. So yeah, I'm sure there's going to be coconut pill cocktails and all sorts of crazy stuff going on up on the Hill tonight and for the coming weeks as the entire Democratic Party gets coconut pilled essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you, Jay from the Natty, and shout out to you, Megan Ginny. I'd love to see Rashida challenge. Yeah, because Rashida was born in America, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I didn't know if she was. I mean, obviously, she was born in Palestine. She would never been able to move here. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just knew she had family there. That would be an option. I don't know if that's something that's on her radar. I haven't heard her voice or vocalize that, but she'd be 10 times the candidate that Kamala Harris would be.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to pose like an identity challenge to her because she's obviously like a woman of color herself.
Yep. I mean, I wouldn't get your hopes up,
No.
Meg and Jenny. I really wouldn't. I think all these progressives right now are also freaking out, trying to figure out how they're going to stay relevant under the next Democratic administration. Because, some people were speculating that like Bernie, he did have a line to the president. Biden did communicate more with the progressive faction of his party, the left flank, than previous presidents, which is maybe why they were circling the wagons to protect him or whatever. But yeah, I mean, they are going to want to figure out how they can get in the ear of the next administration. And I don't know if running against Kamala is going to be conducive to that, but I certainly would love to see it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to you, Christian Vlog, driving the van to the convention. Well, the van is retired. We have a new logo now. The van exists only in imagery, only in lore, only in nostalgia. It's in my grandpa, who you guys just heard a super chat from. It's in his driveway right now. Has been. Shout out to you, Grandpa, for letting me store that motherfucker there for years. Gavin's grandpa also took a turn storing it for years. So it's made its way around to both of our grandpa's lots. But yeah, it's still sitting there. Maybe one day when I have a spare 50 grand, we'll actually invest in the dream van conversion. That was the impetus for the name of this podcast. But that's all it remains now. Folklore.
Yep. Shout out to you, Christian.
We'll probably take Gavin's Prius or my Corolla if we drive.
Probably. Also, shout out to you, Asa Rosa. I've heard this floated to Harris Castro. I think that Julian Castro is definitely a talented politician who's more progressive than someone like Kamala Harris, but I think it's going to be a white dude. I think it's going to be the blandest, straightest white male you've ever seen.
The Biden to
Yeah.
her Barack Obama. Yeah. Shout out to you, Asa Rosa. And shout out to Adria Friend. Jojo left his home in Tucson, Arizona for some California grass. Tucson is a university town. Lots of radical leftists here. Yeah, you got to be careful with the word lots of radicals. More per capita, really, probably than some places because you got the university kids, but they'll also probably get lazy and not come out and vote. I don't know. I'm kidding, Adria. I'm hoping that Arizona goes blue. That would be sick.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a real possibility. It's definitely back on the map, Adria. So I'm going to be super interested. We're going to be paying attention to the polls. And yeah, that definitely helps. So shout out to you. And hello from Kansas City, Jose. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Jose. Hello from New Jersey as well. Well, actually, hello to New Jersey from Kansas City. I'm not in New Jersey. There we go. What is Gavin Newsom thinking right now? I'm a shoo-in for the vice presidency, as Gavin just laid out. He makes the cut. He's the narrow one in the crosshairs. He can tee up his, future political ambitions by being a loyal vice president for 8 years.
Although he's from California too.
Oh,
so
fuck yeah. We already discussed this. God damn it.
Yeah.
Antiquated laws prevent this man from becoming the VP.
And I just think that I don't think she would choose him anyway because they need to
diversify.
They need to put other states into play, and they already have to battle with the image of California elitism. That's probably going to be the number one attack against Kamala from Trump and Vance is that, we're populists and they're, California elitists. Do you want San Francisco America or Ohio? You know what I'm saying? That's going to be the whole playbook, right? So she's going to have to pick someone who can balance it out, someone from a Kentucky, a North Carolina, an Arizona, or whatever. But I think Gavin Newsom's probably pissed off right now. He's probably like, fuck no, like that Star Wars Darth Vader, no, because this means that, his 2028 prospects, they just got a lot dimmer. And I think he's probably also, pretty upset right now. Not just Gavin Newsom, but Gretchen Whitmer, J.B. Pritzker. They're probably all fucking kicking themselves for not having challenged Joe Biden when they should have, back when there actually could have been a primary. Because if someone like Gavin Newsom had actually challenged Joe Biden back before fucking New Hampshire and South Carolina and all these states, I actually think it could have been successful. But they all made the calculation that it was better to wait for 2028 and hope that things shook out as they shook out. That didn't work out. Now Gavin Newsom is fucked. 2028, it's going to be a lot harder to get through a primary if Kamala Harris is already the anointed successor.
Yeah. Shout out to you. And also, Race Car, we've gotten a few comments about this. This isn't a setting, unfortunately, that the Vanguard has control of. They make it very rudimentary, very elementary for the controls back here. I either have public, private, members, or unlisted. Those are the three things that I can click after we hit this live stream's over. So now when the live streams end, I just hit members only. So if you want to find out like what's going on, you probably would have to hit up your YouTube support rep, because there is absolutely nothing on our end that would indicate that we would turn off background playback. Like that's not something that we care about.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it is stupid that apparently YouTube doesn't allow background playback with members only content, because they allow it for non-members only content. So you think that people are literally paying money for stuff should have access to the same features that normal YouTube users have access to. It makes no sense to me. Unfortunately, like Zach said, it's not something that we have any control over. So if you really care about it, I would email YouTube and tell them to change their stupid ass policy.
Yeah, it sucks though. I feel bad. If we could change it, we would have, because I don't fucking care, right? Why would I care about that? But when I pull up the YouTube thing,
as much as possible.
It's very rudimentary.
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on. YouTube doesn't help us out either. We don't have a YouTube rep. We don't have 1 million subscribers. So if we reach out to YouTube, they will not respond to us. So I don't know what to tell you, Race Car. I really appreciate you being a YouTube member, and I hope this isn't a deal breaker for you, but our hands are tied. There's not fuck all I can do about that. YouTube doesn't care about our peon channel with 35,000 subs.
Yep. Shout out to you though, Race Car, and thank you for being a member. You can also always download our live streams if you want, like onto your phone or laptop, and that might give you more options in that regard. If it's actually like a downloaded MP4, which you should be able to pretty easily.
Yeah, if you're a member, you should be able to do that no matter what. And also, it might be something where they make you have YouTube Premium. I know sometimes YouTube does that stupid shit. So that could be like the hurdle that has to be, dealt with. I don't know, Race Car. I'm sorry, but I really do appreciate the $20 in super chats and your support as a channel member. And last but certainly not least, from Susie Stone, my husband has actually heard Mark Kelly speak, she says. And he said he's pretty dynamic. Yeah, I hope so. We need a dynamic speaker on the ticket. He looks like a cop, so I don't love that, because then it's like cop on cop action. But he is a bland white guy, and I know that's what they're looking for.
And an astronaut.
An astronaut.
And I do think the astronaut thing, like, it sounds kind of goofy, but like that means it's a lot harder to attack him as a career politician, right? Like even Andy Bashir apparently is from a political dynasty in Kentucky, so he's kind of like a nepo baby in the political world. Mark Kelly, he really does have a impressive and inspiring life story that he can tout, and honestly, a life story that's way more impressive than JD Vance's, who, again, didn't actually even do anything except for grow up in fucking Ohio, but apparently that's inspiring. I grew up in Ohio and then I went to Yale. That's my amazing inspirational story that got turned into a movie. What's even inspiring about that? Like, okay, lots of people grow up in Ohio. Good for you. Anyway, Mark Kelly actually did shit. He went to space. He's an astronaut, and he's not a career politician. He's not been a democratic creature, trying to work his way up the ladder for the last couple decades. No, he just got involved in politics, and he immediately was successful. He won his first Senate seat, which is why he's in the United States Senate. And yeah, he's the kind of person that I think would appeal to nonpartisan folks, and even some Republicans. Like I heard someone on TV that was saying they were voting for Trump, but that Mark Kelly's like the only Democrat that could actually get them interested in the Democratic ticket, just because they're genuinely an admirer of Mark Kelly. So I think some people genuinely would hear about Mark Kelly. They would admire him. They would find him inspiring, and they would be like, yeah, that's someone that should be in charge.
Yeah, I hope so. At this point, I know that in the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of people on the left who are like, fuck all of you guys for saying even anything remotely positive about this. Kamala's a neoliberal sellout, and she doesn't want to do anything good for the working class. And to those people, I would say, you're pretty much right. But this is such an upswing from the position that the Democrats were in, and from a bird's eye view, and as far as the outcome and the lived reality of the American people, this is definitely going to be a game changer. It has to be discussed. Is this a perfect outcome? No, but I think it's pretty fair to say it's an improved outcome by a wide margin.
Oh, yeah. And also, guys, like, we're just in a different era, different landscape than we were in the last, election season, 2020. Obviously, Bernie Sanders was a real force. The burgeoning progressive movement that he started was a serious movement. It's not anymore. We literally now have to readjust. We are living in a post Bernie Sanders, political climate, a post Bernie Sanders Democratic Party. That doesn't mean hope is dead. There will be and there can be another Bernie Sanders, hopefully in 2028. We're definitely going to be trying to, kindle the conditions for that to happen and encourage the conditions for that to happen. It definitely will happen at some point, right? But right now, that's not the case. There is no Bernie Sanders in this race. So we're not going to go about our commentary by just being like, everyone sucks and everyone's evil and we're to the left of everyone and we're more pure than everyone, because that's not political commentary. That's just virtue signaling, and it's no fun to listen to, and it's no fun to do as a commentator. So yeah, we're not responding to the super chat. Sorry, I'm not trying to rope you in, Susie, but just to anyone that is wondering, yeah, hopefully at some point we have another serious progressive movement, something like we saw under Bernie Sanders. But right now we straight up do kind of have to revert to like a like a pre-Bernie era where that just wasn't an option. And that's how we have to think about this stuff, So I'm not saying that makes us less progressive, but the candidates that we're talking about are, and that is the reality of the situation.
Yep. And obviously the policy doesn't change. The policies that are correct don't change, and our support for them don't change. And when Kamala becomes the president, you're going to hear me say a lot of nasty things about her. You're going to hear me say all kinds of bad shit about her decision-making and whoever the fuck the VP's decision-making is. But yeah, unfortunately, guys, the landscape is different now. And we have to play chess, not checkers. You can only play the cards that you're dealt. And, here at the Vanguard, we want to always be upfront with you guys. We want to always be straight and real. And, we're not in anybody's armpit, right? We didn't crawl and build a hole in anybody's asshole, so we could always give you guys the for real takes, right? Gavin ratioed the oblivion out of Bhaskar Sankara, who's a great guy and we really like him. But let's just say Gavin's not the president of the Nation magazine, right? Gavin didn't found Jacobin, right? But our takes are aging really well over here. Because we aren't bought, we're not sold, we don't sell advertisements, we don't have a boss. I don't care if AOC ever comes on this fucking podcast. I don't have to do a sit down with a major politician to give you guys our fucking takes. I got my boy right here who's the political oracle of the year 2024. It's Gavin. He's got the strap on right now. So this is WrestleMania of politics right now. You can only get it on the Vanguard. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in today. We are so excited from the bottom of our hearts. Gavin and I are like children in Disney World. We've worked really hard to get this show off the ground, and we're happy that we now have a robust audience of people who give a shit about what's happening, can discuss and fervently debate the political landscape with. So thank you guys so much for being a part of it. If you want to help us support the show, you'll get a shout out at the end. And most of the time beginning, we fucked it up today because Gavin and I were so excited to talk about Biden dropping out of the race. But we could not do this show without the support from the Patreon community. Lovely fuckers to keep the lights on here at the Costa del Vanguard. Keep our boat afloat and keep us coming at you. Guys, if you want to be seen on the show that your favorite podcasters are watching, the Velvet Underground of BreadTube, only 10,000 people tuned into our podcast, but every single one of them started a band, right, Gavin? This is where the takes age like wine and the vibes are high, almost as high as we are. Thank you guys so much for all of your support.
Yeah. Huge shout out to the Patreon community for making it possible up until this point and going into the future. As I keep saying, guys, this race is really just getting started. Today, in my opinion, marks the kickoff of the 2024 general election, July 21st, a day that will go down in glory. It's Jover. The era of Kamala Harris begins. We're going to be here to talk about it. This is going to be a wild general election, guys. The dynamics are going to change in incredible ways. New leadership in control of the Democratic Party. Out with the dinosaurs, in with the new. It's going to be wild, dude. Trump is probably shitting his pants right now. The entire Republican Party is melting down, and it's going to be a really, really fun next couple of months. So hit that subscribe button, guys. Hit the notification bell because we're building our community still. We've come a long way, but we're nowhere near done. This is just getting started for us, too.
We are building a religion. We are building it bigger. We are widening the corridors and adding more lanes.
Also, just as a one final thing I wanted to say, I'm glad that Joe Biden's fucking career is in this humiliating fashion, right? He
Wow, it's okay. Only the hardcores are really paying attention here. Anyway, we were saying how many motherfuckers are locked up in jail right now because of Joe Biden's stupid horseshit crime bills, destroyed their families, had countless kids grow up without fathers at home, only to vilify. Let's see. Why do we have two? There we go. Yeah. That's all look right. That looks right. Perfect. All right, now we're back. I can still hear myself. All right, I think we're back.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, fitting into this bastard's career, you know, I was giving Joe Biden a little bit of credit for being funnier than some other politicians, being more talented, but all that matters is this guy's policy, and he was a disaster, guys. The crime bill, fucking, you know, supporting the Iraq War, supporting NAFTA.
What he did to uplift Clarence Thomas,
Yep,
who now
smearing
is a
Anita Hill.
fucking insane psychopath, corrupt bastard who we already knew he was a raper.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And now he's been unceremoniously shoved out of power by Barack Obama.
Same guy who put him in power.
And Nancy Pelosi and his feeble, ego-driven, fucking narcissistic ass fucking tried to dig his heels in and screamed and cried and gaslit the nation about, oh, I'm not actually that old. I'm the only one that could beat Trump. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out.
Yep.
Bye. Adios, motherfucker. Anyway, peace
That's
out, guys. We'll be
Vanguard
back.
podcast.
Yep.
We'll be back tomorrow for sure. Hopefully with a very special guest, but fingers crossed, knock on wood. We'll see what happens. There was a big news day today, which means, you know, got to go where the important people are. So we're not holding our breath. I don't be too mad at us.
Yep.
We shouldn't have announced it probably until it was for sure going to happen.
Either way, guys, hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell. Gonna be back tomorrow, potentially with a very special guest in tow. Maybe not. Either way, hit that notification bell, guys. Smash the subscribe button and hit up the link in the description if you'd like to join our Patreon community. But yeah, historic day, a great day. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening.
Yep. Peace out, everybody. And please enjoy the musical stylings of Cat Piss remixed by none other than Fuzzy Slippers.
Yep.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be